Hey everybody, it's low carb and keto nutrition specialist Amy Berger bringing you the one and only keto without the crazy. Because let's face it, it's getting pretty crazy out there in keto and somebody has got to keep us all sane. Okay, first order of business, thank you so much for what I can only describe as the outpouring of love and support that you all showed in my previous video, which was the first video that I've posted in a few months. I am so touched, truly, very touched, very warmed, and I genuinely love knowing that you appreciate the kind of message that I bring about keto and food and overall health and nutrition, and that it helps you. Okay, but enough about that. Second order of business, if you missed me during my little unplanned hiatus, if you like the message of keto without the crazy, if you would like to be able to ask me questions directly, if you would like to get advice from me directly, if you just want to be able to vent and rant about how crazy things are getting in keto, please join my Patreon. I don't know if you are aware, I have a Patreon community. It's in the notes of every video I make, so just go to patreon.com/2itnutrition or look for the link in the notes. We have weekly live calls where you can just interact directly, and I will tell you what, joining my Patreon is way cheaper than doing a consultation with me. So, and there's no long-term commitment. You can join. If you don't like it, if it's not for you, you just quit, no problem. Anyway, okay, third order of business. Let's talk about today's topic. There are so many crazy myths, and dangerous myths, in fact, about ketogenic diets. And it's time for me to start dismantling and dispelling and debunking and demolishing them one by one. Today we're going to start with one of the most pervasive, and I can't say it's the falsest. It's hard to choose among the many myths about keto and try to pick which one is the most wrong, but this one is pretty wrong. And isn't it interesting how nobody says a word to you about your diet for most of your entire life. Nobody comments on what you're eating. Nobody expresses concern. But go on a low carb or ketogenic diet, and all of a sudden, many people in your life come out of the woodwork who overnight sprouted medical degrees. They got PhDs in nutrition, and all of a sudden they are so concerned about your health. Have 2 donuts and a sugary coffee for breakfast every morning and nobody says boo. Eat eggs and bacon and oh my gosh, I can feel your arteries clogging from here. I'm so worried about you. What are you doing with this crazy diet? So one of the most pervasive myths about keto is that it is harmful to the kidneys. I don't know why, well, I was about to say I don't know why anyone thinks this. I do know why they think this, but if you were to challenge somebody who tells you that, oh, you're doing keto, I heard that's really bad for your kidneys, you could challenge them right back and just say, oh, really? How so? What exactly does it do to my kidneys that's so dangerous? Because they will not have a single word to tell you to justify their position. Or they might, but it will have no physiology or biochemistry involved in it whatsoever. It will probably be something like, well, I read it on so-and-so website. I heard it on such and such thing. They're just parroting stuff that they have no idea whether it is scientifically sound. And telling someone that a ketogenic diet is harmful for the kidneys is not scientifically sound. Now, before I go on, I am not a medical doctor, so this is not medical advice, but I'm going to link to some articles in the notes for this video that links to articles that I have written about keto and carbohydrate restriction and protein intake, which we'll get to in a minute, and the kidneys. So everything that I'm going to say here is backed up by research, and you can check it all out. Each of those articles contains links to all of the scientific research that I cite. Let's see. Why would somebody think keto harms the kidneys? Two main reasons. Number one, ketogenic diets may increase the risk for kidney stones. However, let's debunk this right here, right now. Does everyone who gets kidney stones follow a ketogenic diet? Of course not. Not even close, because hardly anyone follows a ketogenic diet. We all think it's super, super popular because we live in the bubble, but in the greater world of human beings, the vast majority of people in the world are not eating a very low carbohydrate or ketogenic diet, and millions of people still get kidney stones. So the reason that keto is associated with, or is sort of known to, some people think it causes kidney stones, is because in the very, very early days of therapeutic use of ketogenic diets, when it was really only used for children with epilepsy, the diet was extremely strict. Many of us would even use the word draconian. It was just very, very, very strict, even more restrictive than just not eating a whole lot of carbs. When they started a child, and maybe even after starting, when a child with epilepsy was using a ketogenic diet in the 1920s, not only did they have to keep their carbs super, super low, but they also were fluid restricted. I don't know why, for whatever reason, they restricted the amount of fluid that these poor little tykes could take in. You will increase your risk for kidney stones eating any type of diet if you are fluid restricted, period. So one of the things they tell you to do to sort of reduce, I won't use the word prevent, but to reduce risk for kidney stones is stay hydrated, drink enough water. So keto did not cause kidney stones. The fluid restriction increased the risk for kidney stones. And of course, we don't do that today in the modern keto world, not when you're using keto for weight loss or diabetes or PCOS or anything else, including epilepsy. They do not even do those crazy draconian measures anymore in the epilepsy world, because with all the research that has been done since those early days, we realized, we don't need to fluid restrict these kids. They were like going all out because they weren't exactly sure what would be the best way to prevent seizures in these kids. We now know they don't need to be fluid restricted. Okay. Probably the second big reason why people think keto might cause kidney stones is because what about all that protein? All that protein is, not just causes stones, but is bad for the kidneys. All that protein can't possibly be good for the kidneys. That high protein has to be bad for the kidneys. There is so much wrong with this, it's hard to know where to start. Again, notes to articles properly referenced in the notes there. First of all, keto is not a high protein diet. It is first and foremost a very, very low carbohydrate diet. Nobody has to gorge on protein on keto. It's not a high protein diet. So first of all, okay, argument over. It's not a high protein diet. However, even if it was a high protein diet, because many of us, myself included, sort of put deliberate effort into maintaining a certain protein intake, and that's very likely more protein than we were eating before we went on a low carb or keto diet. So we may be eating a higher protein diet than we were before. Okay, so even if keto was a high protein diet, that's okay, because guess what doesn't harm the kidneys? High protein intakes. Here's what you need to know about kidney damage and kidney function. The two single biggest contributors, bar none, it's not even close, the two biggest contributors to chronic kidney disease and kidney failure are diabetes and hypertension. And when I say diabetes, I mean mostly type 2 diabetes, but type 1 can also, of course, because of that, if it's unmanaged, the crazy high blood sugar can damage the teeny tiny blood vessels in the kidneys. But since 95% of diabetes in the US is type 2, then I'm just going to say diabetes. So diabetes and hypertension, together, those two conditions are responsible for almost 75% of all cases of kidney failure. So about 3/4 of all kidney failure are caused by hypertension and diabetes. So if you are concerned about your kidney health and your kidney function, the thing to worry about limiting in your diet is excess carbohydrate, not protein. There is an article that covered 15 risk factors for chronic kidney disease. 15. And do you know what was not among them? A high protein intake. Because a high protein intake does not damage the kidneys, period, end of story. Anyone who's telling you it does simply does not understand human physiology. High protein intakes do not harm the kidneys. Why do people think they do? Read the article that I will link to in the notes. I wrote a very lengthy blog post years ago, back when I was still blogging, about how protein affects the kidneys and why high protein does not damage the kidneys. But let's just keep in mind here that with the current state of the demonization of protein, most especially animal protein, beef, pork, poultry, whatever, with the state of the general society and culture absolutely slamming animal foods as being terrible for your health, terrible for the environment, terrible just all around, you bet every single penny you have that if there were the slightest hint, the slightest little whiff of an association between a high protein intake and kidney damage, it would be all over the news. We would never hear the end of it. But we don't. Again, this article that listed 15 risk factors made zero mention of dietary protein intake. Now, people, again, read, if you really want to learn all about this, read that article on does protein harm the kidneys. But quick point here. A lot of people think protein damages the kidneys because people with existing kidney disease, or especially renal failure, the end stage, are told to go on a low protein diet. They are supposed to restrict their protein intake because the kidneys help to filter out some of it's called nitrogenous waste, the waste products from the metabolism of protein that contain nitrogen. And the kidney is responsible for sort of filtering some of this out. That's how you can measure certain things in your urine related to protein intake and stuff. So, but just because kidneys that are already damaged may and people think that this puts a strain on your kidneys because they are taxed with filtering out those nitrogen wastes, that then damaged kidneys are strained, or kidneys in general are strained dealing with protein intake, which is just nonsensical. But even in the case of kidney disease, the research proving that restricting dietary protein either improves kidney function or helps to delay the worsening, it delays the progression of the disease, even there, it is laughable. The research almost doesn't support it at all. And thank goodness, there's a couple of papers that came out recently highly questioning the utility of these long-held recommendations for low-protein diets in patients with kidney failure or kidney disease. Again, I'm not a doctor. I am not telling you what to eat or what to not eat if you have kidney disease, although not eating carbs is probably a really good way to go. Again, even that sort of very long-standing conventional guideline, conventional recommendation to restrict protein intake in people who already have kidney disease, even there, that has almost no convincing support in the published scientific literature. So does keto harm the kidneys? No. What harms the kidneys? Type 2 diabetes and hypertension. And what are two of the most common conditions that you can absolutely reverse by following a ketogenic diet? Type 2 diabetes and hypertension. So it actually stands to reason that not only are ketogenic diets not harmful for the kidneys, they are probably more likely very, very helpful to the kidneys. Now, I can't say I haven't seen a whole lot of research showing that keto improves kidney function in somebody who has kidney disease. There are some papers showing that it doesn't hurt any. It certainly does not make the disease progress. And I think there have been some limited studies, small studies, where the glomerular filtration rate, which is one of the biggest markers of how they measure your kidney function, you know, how quickly are your kidneys filtering all that blood that they need to filter, where that may even improve a teeny tiny bit. Don't quote me on that though. I would have to look that up again. But the point is, keto absolutely does not damage the kidneys. And this lie needs to die. Because there are probably people out there with diabetes, with hypertension, with metabolic syndrome, with all the things, who are in the process right now of leading their kidneys to failure, who are putting themselves on the path to chronic kidney disease, who could stop that in its tracks if they actually went on a ketogenic diet rather than being talked out of it by their friend's cousin's mother's fourth grade hairdresser. All of these experts with their PhDs in human anatomy and physiology who came out of the woodwork the day you decided to do a keto diet. Okay. What else do I have to tell you before I close this one out? I guess just to reiterate, isn't it interesting that everybody's so worried about your kidney function when you go on a keto diet, but when you were having 2 bowls of cereal and a glass of juice, and then for lunch you were having a sandwich, you got the bread, maybe you had pretzels and a soda, nobody said anything about the amount of sugar you were consuming and how damaging that was for the kidneys. But eat a piece of salmon with the crispy skin, the yummy fatty skin, or eat a nice sirloin steak with some roasted broccoli, and all of a sudden your kidneys are on their last legs. This is madness. It's madness, and we're not going to take it anymore. I'm not going to take it anymore. I have staked my career, my professional reputation, my own health on eating a very low carb diet. If I thought this was harmful for my kidneys, I wouldn't be doing it. Okay, that's it. Do check out the links if you are interested in learning more. Like if you're still kind of like, I don't want to take Amy's word for this, like kidney function is a really big deal, I don't want to just believe her, then go ahead and click on some of those links. Like I said, the articles include links to the direct literature, to the scientific papers. And then I will also include a video that you definitely want to watch. It is from a doctor in Australia. Her name is Penelope Figtree. She goes by Penny. Penny, if you're watching this, hi. And she gave a fabulous talk at an event in Australia for the Low Carb Down Under group. And it was all about low carbohydrate diets and kidney disease. And it basically said that this is definitely not hurting your kidneys, and it's very likely helping. Okay, thank you for watching. Again, check out the Patreon. I'm probably going to change soon what I do and what's offered at each different tier. But again, if you appreciate keto without the crazy, you like this message of simplicity and sanity and drowning out the fear-mongering and the overcomplication, I welcome you to the community. If I ever happen to take another unplanned hiatus, you don't have to go 2 months or 3 months without seeing me. The people in my Patreon community saw me every week. The whole time I was away from YouTube, people still got to interact with me live and directly. Okay, that's it. Thank you for watching, and thank you again for that really, really just generous and heartfelt outpouring. I'm just touched. I don't know what else to say. I'm a writer, and you've got me at a loss for words, so I think that says something. See you next time, everybody.